In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at our impending major Arctic blast that is expected to move in right during the end of the weekend into the early portion of next week. And this will bring some snowfall chances to unusual areas. A little bit more usual for the Midwest and Great Lakes, but we're going to see it move down, snowfall showers at least, into the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, maybe even parts of areas even further south than that, and then obviously up into the Northeast as well. Highly, highly unusual. We do have more colder air on the way and more storms later on, so stay tuned for that as well. Let's just dive into the current conditions real quickly, and we can see some sporadic, isolated, and mostly light showers of both rainfall and snowfall in the northwest corner of the nation, which we're going to move into in just a moment. We do have a low there nearby the Great Lakes, and this is causing a lot of snowfall up there in Canada and some rainfall for the United States. We see along this cold front boundary some heavier showers or even thunderstorms are set up. We also have showers and thunderstorms set up across the southeast. So let's first off take a look here at some of these lighter showers we can see across states like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah. It's not super widespread as you can see. It's mostly just pretty scattered about, and it is lighter in nature, but you might see some flurries or some sprinkles around depending on your elevation for this northwest area of the nation. And it's all due to this stronger low that we see here just to the south of Calgary in Canada. Speaking of Calgary, they just got done with some heavier snowfall. And a lot of surrounding areas are still seeing snowfall there in Canada, just off to the east and to the north of Calgary. And we can also see areas of northeastern Montana have seen some snow flying as of this kind of afternoon, through the morning and into the afternoon hours. Looking at the Great Lakes area, again, we see this pretty intense low here just to the north of the UP of Michigan. And we can see behind the cold front some snow showers, mostly light, for areas of eastern, northeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. Areas in Canada experiencing snowfall is mostly going to be these less populated areas here to the north of Elliott Lake and North Bay and Sudbury. We can see areas just to the north of there is where that rain-snow line is set up. Same thing as we move eastward, Ottawa, Montreal, kind of on the more mixed or rain side of things, and just to the north we are seeing snowfall. And it looks like there has been some light snow showers moving through the Quebec area, and that could get a little bit heavier later on today. Also, Maine and New Hampshire, Vermont and upstate New York, these northern areas have been seeing snowfall this morning. A lot of it has switched over to rainfall unless you're there in northern Maine, where they're continuing to see some snowfall showers. Heading further southward, we could see a pretty intense cold front setup here. And again, there could be some thunderstorms along this, and the chances of this being thunderstorms goes up the further southward you go. So Tennessee, Kentucky with the best chance of thunderstorms, but can't even rule it out for Ohio, West Virginia area as well, maybe even southwestern Pennsylvania. But as you can see, as we reach the more northern extent of this, it gets a little bit more showery looking for Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. Further south in the southeast, we do see some low pressure offshore of the southeast, and this is causing some showers and thunderstorms around for states like Florida, mostly Alabama here, seeing some heavier showers or thunderstorms. That's going to be moving into Georgia. And then we can also see for southern North Carolina, we've seen some showery activity move on shore, especially nearby Jacksonville, North Carolina, as there's a low just to the south offshore. Let's go ahead and move on, though, and talk about the model guidance and talk about what is upcoming here over the coming days and weeks ahead. Now, first things first, the 7-day temperature anomalies looking backwards. So this is the first 7 days of November. We can see still we've had an overall warmer start to the month for the western areas, as well as a lot of your central regions here. And then especially as you move into the eastern states, we start to see neutral temperatures, so very, very close to typical for the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. 1 or 2 degrees departed from typical at most. It's the southeastern areas and the deep south areas here where we've had the most below normal temperatures, looking at maybe 3, 5, upwards of even 6 or 7 degrees below normal there for areas in the deeper southeast so far through the month. And these areas are about to get a whole lot colder once our upcoming Arctic blast moves through. Talking about that, let's talk about what is upcoming. And again, we see the same features here that we just saw, low there in the Great Lakes, and then low there just to the north of Montana. Let's move towards this evening. And as we see this evening, that cold front does arrive for the eastern seaboard. Keep in mind, this is not the cold front that will bring in your major Arctic blast just yet, but it might bring in some cooler conditions for the nighttime. But really, this isn't a hugely impactful cold front as far as temperatures. It looks actually to be pretty nice temperature-wise over the weekend, probably even above normal for a lot of your eastern areas. I know here it's going to be around 70 tomorrow on Saturday the 8th, so a beautiful weekend as long as there's no rain. Let's take a look at that Saturday afternoon time frame actually, and especially if you're in the northern plains and upper Midwest, you may be beginning to see the cooler air move in. But for the eastern areas here and along the east coast, it's not arrived yet. We can see some showery activity is involved along the boundary between that cooler air and the much milder air to the south. And for tomorrow, we see the west is beginning to warm up, which is the beginning sign of that positive PNA developing, which really just means warm along the west. And that forces all of this cold air to head eastward. And that is the effect that we are going to end up seeing. Looking towards Sunday afternoon, this is when things begin to worsen. We do see a low kind of along the boundary. And excuse me, but we should rewind here because I forgot. We see our snowstorm begin to develop. See these little isobars? We see a little circle here where there's a little bit of lower pressure between Missouri and Illinois there. That's where the beginning of that low is developing and will bring some snowfall here to parts of the Great Lakes. And we can see that low deepening down to 1,006, which is a really weak low, but it is a low nevertheless. And we see some rainfall showers further south for a lot of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. But some snowfall beginning for Wisconsin and Michigan there. This is by 1 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday the 9th. As we move another frame forward, this is 4 a.m. Eastern time, and we see this low has gone down 1 millibar. We do see for Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe even a little bit of Indiana, some snowfall is going. And then for the morning hours, 7 a.m. Eastern, we see that low is 1,005 still over West Virginia. And some snowfall is really, really going for Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, where a few inches is possible for some of these areas. It can't be ruled out. We see that really just kind of worsening as the hours go on. We see a lot of areas in Canada here seeing those moderate snowfall impacts, and also northern New England beginning to see it for, again, 10 a.m. Eastern now on Sunday. Moving forward another frame. Here, this is going to be 1 p.m. We see snow is beginning to end there for Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. But we can see behind it some lake effect snowfall and general snowfall showers are beginning for the upper Midwest as well as the western Great Lakes. Everywhere to the west of this low will have experienced the colder air moving in. Everywhere to the east of it has not seen it yet. And this is by 1 p.m. on Sunday still. So your football games will be starting. That's how you can remember that. 4 p.m. here, when we move from the 1 o'clock games to the 4 p.m. games here on Sunday the 9th, we see that snowfall is, again, transitioning to more lake effect snowfall and snowfall showers there for, again, the Midwest, Great Lakes here. That low is progressing. It's still pretty messy for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. As we keep going, though, we can see overnight, this is 1 a.m. on Monday, the 10th, and we can see worsening lake effect snowfall for the Great Lakes, getting pretty heavy for areas of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, even Michigan there. It's beginning for Pennsylvania and New York. Pretty classic areas to see lake effect snow. And this does continue into the afternoon hours for Monday the 10th, and we even see some snowfall showers, perhaps, and flurries flying for states like Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe even as far southward as Alabama and Georgia, North Carolina here, and portions of Virginia. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Very, very, very unusual. And as we keep going, that kind of just continues into the overnight Monday into Tuesday, so the 10th to the 11th, and the lake effect snowfall actually gets worse here. We see areas of Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, seeing really, really heavy bands of lake effect snowfall that could accumulate very, very quickly. The difficult part is that lake effect snowfall is tricky to forecast, especially when we're days away. This is going to be something that's going to come down to the wire as far as exactly who is going to see the lake effect snowfall and exactly how much everybody's going to see. Might even just be something that we have to look at as it's happening, with just how unpredictable and how small in scale these lake effect events can really be. Snowfall showers trickling into the central regions of North Carolina and Virginia there for 1 a.m. on Tuesday, November 11th. Just, again, cannot stress enough how unusual that is. For the day on Tuesday, this will actually be 10 a.m. We see worsening lake effect for Pennsylvania and New York. Their kind of peak of this lake effect event seems to be for Tuesday the 11th, so it kind of progresses from western Great Lakes through into the central and then eventually the eastern over a 24-hour period. Really just evolving as time goes on. And pretty quickly, Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday, the 12th here, we see a lot of that really intense cold air lift off very quickly. But what we're left with for Wednesday the 12th is still a descending pattern into the east, which is going to mean it's warmer over the west and cooler over the east in general. We still see some showery activity both in the forms of rain and snowfall here for the north central and northeastern states. As we move towards Thursday, it's very similar. It does look like we have a pretty major storm system about to arrive for the west coast, perhaps, Thursday the 13th. And for Friday, that storm system begins to arrive. Mostly rainfall. I think there will be high elevation snowfall despite the warmer pattern. This model is not picking that up, but that is my thoughts on that. We could see a little bit of what we call a backdoor cold front beginning for the east, and that just means that typically, like we saw with the Arctic blast, colder air comes from the northwest. A backdoor cold front is going to come more so directly down for these eastern areas, or maybe even a little bit heading westward, which is really unusual. But we see this dip for pretty much just the immediate eastern areas. It's a classic backdoor cold front there for Friday on the 14th. Saturday here on the 15th, we're still descending into the east and much more of a ridge look out west. It's more of a double dipper, but it's still the same premise. A low between the Great Lakes and Hudson Bay is indicative of colder air heading eastward. We still see a lot of storminess out west by Friday the 15th. Looking towards Sunday here on the 16th, we can see this trough is becoming deeper for the east here, so cooler as we're heading into next weekend. Still snowfall for a lot of northern Maine, some of the upper Midwest, as well as a lot of Canada here. Some messy weather underneath for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast as well. Monday here on the 17th, we're getting stormier out west and for the central states. There's also a coastal low nearby the Northeast with some high elevation snowfall. I really think this is pretty similar to what we've been experiencing ever since that big cool down that's coming up. So it's not changing too much after we reach about the 11th, 12th, all the way through the 18th. We're staying pretty stagnant here. We do dry up for Tuesday the 18th. Wednesday the 19th, we're seeing the west pretty active, still descending towards the east. So again, still kind of locked into a similar pattern. Even by Thursday the 20th, we do end up with quite a bit of low pressure starting up just to the east of the Rockies, which is going to be pretty classic for thunderstorms and severe weather for the southern plains. But also a lot of snowfall for the Rockies can be anticipated with this type of a setup. We also see cooler air trending in for the west coast, which is going to in turn trend in some warmer conditions for the central and typically even the eastern states, but we still have this kind of backdoor cold look. We'll see what happens with that over time. We do warm up eventually in the east, so this is kind of the result of that. We end up cooler over the northwest and then actually warmer in the east finally after the 20th, which is the long range, so take it with a grain of salt, but that is where the model eventually takes us. It does look like a rich amount of thunderstorms and maybe even severe weather for the plains into the lower Midwest. And then the Northwest sees a pretty monster storm, heavy precipitation with even heavy snowfall for the northern Rockies, as well as the Cascades and some of the northern Sierra Nevada mountains. With all that being said, let's take a look at the total precipitation. Still really impressive here for the western areas, and then it's kind of sporadic in the east. So we'll break it down by looking at the averages. We can see mostly above average precipitation in the southwest, a bit below average for the northwest, despite the really large amount of precipitation they do see. This is the time of year where their average precipitation really climbs high. So you saw how much activity they expect. It's still not enough to be considered average, which should tell you how high the average amount of precipitation is for them. A lot of your deeper south areas here in the east are below average, pretty well below average as well, as we kind of see most of our storms moving through the northern states like this, kind of leaving these areas mostly pretty dry in the upcoming pattern, which is pretty classic for a La Nina, which is what we're in, a weak La Nina. Above average for the upper Midwest here, though, in northern plains, mostly below average or near average for everywhere else. Total snowfall in the European model is really amped for the western mountains, no surprise. We do see light to moderate snowfall amounts for a lot of the or at least light to moderate amounts for the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and then through the Ohio Valley, even into some of the lower Appalachian mountain range, which is going to cover some of the southeast areas. Some of the interior mid-Atlantic as well as northern northeast are seeing snowfall as well, snowfall showers, which we can see in the grays and blues. Likely most of that isn't accumulating, the grays and blues. It's as we move into the purples and pinks where we can see two things. Areas that see lake effect get the purples and pinks, and then high elevation in the northeast as well as the kind of Appalachian mountain range end up with those amounts as well, and that is the accumulating snowfall. The lake effect could easily drop snowfall in the feet, so we need to really watch that closely. And then the high elevations, we'll have to wait and see what's really expected, because these models are flip-flopping back and forth. But they could see pretty high amounts compared to their lower elevation counterparts, obviously. For comparison, the GFS model takes a little bit less of those snowfall showers, a little less widespread with it. We do get further south with the accumulating snowfall in the northeast. Lake effect still looks very similar, so both models do expect major lake effect snowfall to occur. Looking at the temperatures, we're cooler still right now. Again, we do warm up for the weekend along the eastern seaboard. So for Saturday, that also encompasses a lot of your south central, deep south, lower Midwest, some of the Ohio Valley, especially the southern areas, the southeast, mid-Atlantic, and northeast, all looking quite warm compared to normal. This is for Saturday the 8th, tomorrow. But we already do have that warmer column set up out west, and this Arctic air is advancing quickly. So we're going to see this again pretty much just advancing the whole time. Sunday afternoon, a lot of your deep south and south central states do start to cool down. The southeast and mid-Atlantic are pretty much the only areas holding on to the warmth for Sunday afternoon. And then for Monday afternoon time frame, look at this. Really rich Arctic air all over the eastern states. Except for New England, actually. We see New England still hanging on to the warmth, but it will be arriving, don't worry. Anywhere in the outer blues is only 1 to 10 degrees below normal, which does, 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees below normal is nothing crazy. As you move into like the 5 to 10, which is the darker blue bands in these areas, that is where we're looking at pretty noticeable cooler temperatures. The greens is far below average, so that's 10 to 15 degrees below what is typical for this given time, this given day, and that given location, any of these green locations, which is very significant. The purplish blues inside of the greens is going to be 15 to 25 degrees below normal, which is really intense. And then we even get the magentas, which is actually quite rare. And we do see that for a lot of the lower Appalachian mountain range and surrounding areas, which is going to be 25 degrees or more below normal, which you can't see it, but I can see it. It does tell me the minimum and maximum numbers on screen. And we do have a maximum in there, or I should say minimum of 40.8 degrees below normal, which is just so extreme. I can't stress that enough. If your average temperature was 80, it would be 40 degrees. So just think about that for a second. If your average temperature was 80, sunny and hot, you would be seeing 40 degrees where you could see your breath outside. That is a massive difference. And as we keep advancing, again, this doesn't last too long. Tuesday, we see New England get included. It's a little less intense, but still a major cool down and really significant in these purplish blue areas. Still for Tuesday afternoon, the 11th, and then by the 12th, we see some of the cooler conditions hanging on, but it is really dying out quickly. And then we kind of get into this weird pattern. I mean, we look at Friday the 14th, and we're still seeing the eastern seaboard cold. Everywhere else is pretty much warmth. We see Saturday the same thing. Sunday, we do warm up for the 16th, but we cool down really quickly for Monday the 17th, Tuesday the 18th, Wednesday the 19th, Thursday the 20th, Friday the 21st here, maybe near normal, and then Saturday the 22nd. That's the whole model run. The East Coast stays cooler. Meanwhile, we see like really back and forth cold and warm temperatures just a little bit further inland. Pretty crazy difference for the East Coast versus these inland areas in the East. The GFS model, let's see where we get agreement. This major cooldown moves down, moves out pretty quickly. We get a second cooldown right there, sticks around for the East Coast. We do warm up for the Southeast a little bit more on this model run, but kind of the same idea, just a little bit less persistent with the cold on the eastern seaboard, but really similar here for the GFS model versus the European. So with all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.